Really interesting. I'm almost positive that it's next week. I've been so engrossed in and we may be taking a week off. It's possible, but we begin to explore why Prometheus is doing what he's doing, and to explore why he's doing what he's doing, we actually have to go back in our story, which is interesting and something that I'm very proud that we're doing in a fifth season, because we're calling back to a lot of familiar parts of our early days in the show.
We saw a human target in the episode that's airing tonight. We even saw him in the flashback. That's kind of interesting. Does that mean that he's going to play an ongoing role in sort of the backstory of Oliver?
I don't know about the backstory. I'm really enjoying the flashbacks this year, and but a lot is going to happen, because we have a veritable checklist of things that have to happen before we theoretically get to the events of 101, right? So I don't know if the human target's going to continue through the backstory, because we have a lot of things to focus on, but I would love to have Will back in our present day. I thought he was a really interesting element to the show. I mean, I know that it's a very specific gimmick is the wrong word, but set of skills is maybe better. I thought he was great. I thought he was cool, and I really enjoyed. And I spoke with the producers about this. I really enjoyed the way that Oliver got to behave when he was being played by the human target, because it was a little bit more of a fun, jovial, wisecracking version of the character, and I like that version.
Jumping off of that, we see that Susan Williams is learning about Oliver's past in Russia, which is the first time something like that's really happened on the show. Can you tease a little bit about how that's going to play out and affect Oliver's present day storyline?
Well, it hasn't really happened yet, but where they go is interesting. Susan appears to be up to no good, but in reality, she's following a very interesting story. I mean, the mayor of the town where she is a news reporter was clearly not on an island for 5 consecutive years, which, by the way, I feel like it's about time we did that. I mean, I always think back to, the first Nolan Batman, where I think it's Ra's al Ghul that says, the world is too small a place for someone like Bruce Wayne to disappear. Theoretically, Oliver Queen was sort of, even if he wasn't as famous, and he wasn't, he did perish in a very famous incident within our story. So I always thought when he was in Hong Kong that someone would stop him and be like, "Hey, you look like Oliver Queen," but no. So I'm glad that it's happening.
This was also an episode where he took a blow to the heart with learning about Felicity's new boyfriend. Can you talk about how he's going to kind of either recover from that or move on from that?
Yeah, I thought that Oliver was fine, if not slightly confused that Felicity didn't tell him that she was dating someone. That wasn't ever, I wasn't actually a huge fan of the idea that she wouldn't say something, because of all the reasons that their relationship fell apart last year, which was secrets being kept. So to me, when I played those scenes tonight, it was just like, hey, we work together, so if you're keeping anything from me, why? Is it because you don't trust me? If you don't trust me, is that a problem? So to me, it was really about getting to the source of, what her issue was. It was less about Oliver. It was more about, are we okay? Are we good? Because, now it's not just you and me down there. We have John back in the fold. We have, Thea operating the political, axis of Star City, and we have these new recruits that, look to us for guidance. So let's make sure that, as the theoretical leaders of the team, that we're on the same page.
Back to Susan.
Yeah.
That kind of tying into that, you have always been, or Oliver has always been very controlling of the information, not just about the flashbacks, but across the board.
Yeah.
How is it going to affect him to have somebody else potentially unveiling his secrets?
Hopefully it's building towards something that we've talked about doing on the show for a while. we've had in separate instances, be it with you know, the first person principally I think being Slade, who discover Oliver's secret, or a secret that he is keeping, not the secret, and they threaten him with it. So, you know, I think that it would be interesting to, you know, if we go back to that storyline of her having information, that maybe she threatens him with it, but maybe his counter is different than what we've seen before. You know, I also think that it would be most interesting if Susan Williams wasn't just necessarily a spy in the weeds, sort of like in the way that there was no redeeming quality in Isabel Rochev. She was there to play Oliver from the beginning. So maybe Susan Williams is learning something, but concurrently, you know, maybe her relationship with Oliver will become, you know, dynamic, and she won't want to do what she did to Thea in the earlier part of the season.
Oliver has really given Quentin sort of a chance to redeem himself and take on more responsibility. Is he going to rise to the occasion, or will he still have...
I think that I'd like to think that eventually he will rise to the occasion and deal with what he's dealing with, but it hasn't come to a head yet, so to speak. I mean, generally in real life, but more specifically on TV shows, people just don't sort of fix their drinking problem without something going horribly wrong. So I would expect that we're going to have to hit rock bottom before things just start to kick back up.
Oliver's in a place where he's ready to move on and pursue a new relationship.
I don't know if he's ready to move on, but it's time for Oliver to have another relationship. We actually had a moment earlier this year, and I was speaking with Wendy Miracle, and I'm like, look, guys, there's two things that we're no longer allowed to write about Oliver. We're no longer allowed to call him a billionaire because he's been broke for 3 years. Right? And not broke, but not a billionaire. I mean, he lost his family fortune. Right. We're not allowed to say playboy. He's dated one woman since season 2, and, you know, like, he hasn't even, I mean, he had a fling with Isabel Rochev. I mean, that was it. I'm like, stop writing playboy. If you'd like him to be a playboy, then by all means start writing him like one, and then we can do it. So I think that it's, you know, I've had a couple of scenes with Carly, who's doing a great job as Susan Williams, and I do think that it's, you know, that there will be some exploration of a certain element of romance between the two of them, and I hope that people enjoy it, because I found it to be really dynamic.
Someone who's not a billionaire anymore, where is he living?
He's living in the Arrow Cave. Yeah, I mean, you know, he has stuff to deal with, but that relationship between you know, Oliver and Diggle has been very solid this year, and I've loved my scenes with David as I always do. You know, I want him to be back, you know, full-fledged in the world, which obviously means that, you know, he can't hide out in the hive forever, which is something that, you know, that we acknowledge in a couple of episodes. But it's great having him back on the team, because you know, I think that the recruits have been great, but, you know, Diggle's Oliver's guy. You know what I mean? And he needs him there. He's needed him there since the beginning. So it's good to have him back. If it's, you know, if it's Rory having guilt, if it's Evelyn having not yet a complete trust in Oliver, which is something that we examine very soon for very cool reasons. You know, if it's Renee just not dealing well with authority figures, I think that we're pushing towards all the different backstories that exist for these characters. And, you know, one thing that we're not going to get over is, you know, Oliver says to Curtis in, I think, the second episode this year, of all of these people, you have the furthest to go, which is also something that we stick with in the first part of the year.